The sound of Nam-myoho Renge-kyo echoes through meeting halls, temples, and homes around the world. This simple phrase represents a revolutionary approach to Buddhist practice that emerged in 13th century Japan. While most Buddhist traditions offer complex meditation techniques or require years of monastic training, this path offers something different, a direct route to enlightenment that anyone can walk. The Lotus Sutra itself declares, "The world-honored one has long expounded his doctrines, and now must reveal the truth." This truth, according to one interpretation, lies not in complexity, but in the profound simplicity of recognizing one's inherent Buddha nature through devoted practice. At the heart of this distinctive approach lies an unwavering conviction about the Lotus Sutra's supreme importance. While other Buddhist schools study various sutras and texts, this tradition places the Lotus Sutra at the absolute center of practice. Nichiren Daishonin wrote, "Among the sutras, the Lotus Sutra is like the great ocean that gathers all rivers." This isn't merely preferential treatment of one text over others. Rather, it reflects a belief that this particular sutra contains the complete and final teaching of Shakyamuni Buddha, revealing truths that other teachings only partially address. The Lotus Sutra itself makes bold claims about its own significance. In the Expedient Means chapter, it states, "The Buddha has attained the law that is rarely known and difficult to understand. The true entity of all phenomena can only be understood and shared between Buddhas." This passage suggests that earlier Buddhist teachings were skillful, means-helpful, but incomplete, leading students gradually toward the full truth. Other Buddhist traditions acknowledge the Lotus Sutra's importance, but they generally view it as one valuable teaching among many. In contrast, Nichiren Buddhism sees it as the culmination of all Buddhist wisdom, the ultimate expression of the Buddha's enlightenment. This emphasis leads directly to the practice of chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo, which translates roughly as devotion to the mystic law of the Lotus Sutra. Nichiren Daishonin explained, "Myoho Renge-kyo is the king of sutras, flawless in both letter and principle. Its words are the ultimate reality, and this reality is the mystic law." By chanting this title, practitioners believe they tap into the same enlightened state that Shakyamuni Buddha achieved. This differs markedly from traditions that emphasize silent meditation, visualization practices, or study of complex philosophical texts. Consider how this contrasts with Zen Buddhism, which emphasizes seated meditation and the direct transmission of insight from teacher to student. Zen practitioners might sit in silence for hours, seeking to quiet the mind and experience sudden awakening. Tibetan Buddhism offers elaborate visualization practices, complex rituals, and detailed philosophical studies that can take decades to master. Theravada Buddhism focuses on the Pali Canon and the gradual cultivation of wisdom through meditation and ethical conduct. Each path has its merits and has helped countless people over centuries. Yet each also requires certain conditions: time, quiet spaces, skilled teachers, or intellectual capacity that not everyone possesses. The genius of chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo lies in its accessibility. A parent caring for children can chant while cooking dinner. A worker on a lunch break can practice in their car. An elderly person with limited mobility can chant from bed. Nichiren Daishonin wrote to one of his followers, "Never let life's hardships disturb you. After all, no one can avoid problems, not even saints or sages." This acknowledgement of life's difficulties informs the practical nature of the practice. It doesn't require retreating from the world or achieving perfect conditions. Instead, it meets people where they are, in the midst of their daily struggles and joys. This practicality connects to another fundamental difference: the emphasis on achieving enlightenment in this very lifetime. Many Buddhist traditions teach that enlightenment requires multiple lifetimes of practice. You might be born as a human, practice diligently, die, and be reborn in circumstances that allow further practice, gradually progressing over countless incarnations. The Lotus Sutra revolutionizes this view with its teaching of attaining Buddhahood in one's present form. Chapter 2 states, "The Buddhas wish to open the door of Buddha wisdom to all living beings, to allow them to attain purity." The word allow suggests that Buddha wisdom isn't something distant or requiring eons to achieve. It's available now. Nichiren Daishonin emphasized this urgency in his letters to followers. He wrote, "Life is limited. We must not begrudge it. What we should ultimately aspire to is the Buddha land." This doesn't mean abandoning hope for future existences, but rather recognizing that transformation must begin immediately, in this present moment, with this present life. The distinction matters deeply for how people approach practice. If enlightenment seems impossibly distant, requiring perfection across many lifetimes, practitioners might feel discouraged or adopt a passive attitude. But if enlightenment is genuinely possible now, today, then every moment becomes charged with potential. This teaching also fundamentally changes how practitioners view their current circumstances. Rather than seeing present difficulties as karmic punishments requiring patient endurance until future lifetimes bring better conditions, this tradition teaches that challenges are opportunities for growth and transformation right now. The Lotus Sutra describes how the place where this sutra is preached is the place of the Buddha's walking. Wherever you stand, whatever your situation, that location becomes sacred ground for your enlightenment. You don't need to wait for perfect circumstances or a future rebirth in a pure land. Your apartment, your workplace, your neighborhood, these are the venues for your spiritual revolution. Personal responsibility flows naturally from this teaching. If enlightenment is possible now, and if your current circumstances are the perfect ground for practice, then you bear responsibility for your own spiritual development. Nichiren Daishonin wrote, "Suffer what there is to suffer, enjoy what there is to enjoy. Regard both suffering and joy as facts of life, and continue chanting Nam Myoho Renge Kyo." This isn't passive acceptance of fate, but active engagement with life as it presents itself. You cannot blame circumstances, past karma, or the need for future lifetimes. You must take hold of your life now and transform it through practice. This radical personal empowerment extends into the social realm, marking another distinctive feature of this Buddhist path. While many Buddhist traditions emphasize individual liberation and personal peace, Nichiren Buddhism insists that individual enlightenment and social transformation are inseparable. Nichiren Daishonin lived during a turbulent period in Japanese history, marked by natural disasters, famine, and political upheaval. He didn't counsel retreat from worldly affairs. Instead, he wrote numerous treatises to government officials, warning them that the nation's troubles stemmed from slander of the correct teaching and could only be resolved through embracing the Lotus Sutra. The Lotus Sutra itself contains teachings about the Bodhisattva's role in society. The Bodhisattva Never Disparaging chapter tells of a monk who bowed to everyone he met, saying, "I have profound reverence for you. I would never dare treat you with disparagement or arrogance. Why? Because you are all practicing the Bodhisattva way and are certain to attain Buddhahood." This story illustrates seeing Buddha nature in all people and treating them accordingly. It suggests that spiritual practice isn't separate from how we interact with others in daily life. Modern practitioners of this tradition have taken these teachings as a mandate for social engagement. Rather than viewing spiritual practice as something separate from concerns about poverty, education, environmental destruction, or peace, they see these issues as integral to Buddhist practice. The teaching that all people possess Buddha nature implies that creating conditions for all people to reveal that nature through education, economic opportunity, and peace is fundamentally Buddhist work. This differs from Buddhist traditions that primarily emphasize individual meditation practice or monastic life separate from worldly concerns. Consider the Lotus Sutra's teaching about the oneness of self and environment. It explains that our inner state and our surroundings are not separate but reflect each other. If this is true, then working to improve society isn't just altruism. It's an essential part of our own enlightenment. We cannot fully reveal our Buddha nature while others suffer and while society remains mired in conflict and injustice. Nichiren Daishonin wrote, "If you light a lantern for another, it will also brighten your own way." This simple image captures the teaching beautifully. Helping others isn't sacrifice, it's enlightened self-interest in the best sense. The simplicity of practice deserves deeper exploration because it represents such a departure from other Buddhist approaches. Buddhism often appears complex to outsiders. Ancient texts written in Sanskrit, Pali, or Chinese require years of study. Meditation techniques demand precise posture and breath control. Tibetan practices involve memorizing elaborate visualizations. These practices have value, and many people find them deeply meaningful. But they also create barriers. Not everyone has the education to study difficult texts. Not everyone has the physical ability to sit cross-legged for extended periods. Not everyone has access to qualified teachers. Nam-myoho Renge-kyo requires none of these things. You need only your voice and sincere intention. Nichiren Daishonin wrote, "The mighty warrior General Li Kuang, whose mother had been devoured by a tiger, shot an arrow at the stone that he believed was the tiger. The arrow penetrated the stone up to its feathers. But once he realized it was only a stone, he was unable to pierce it again. Later he came to be called General Stone Tiger." This story illustrates that sincere belief and determination matter more than technique or special abilities. If you chant with conviction, the practice works regardless of your education, physical condition, or circumstances. This doesn't mean the practice lacks depth. Chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo is simple to begin, but profound to master. The Lotus Sutra states, "The wisdom of all the Buddhas is infinitely profound and immeasurable." Tapping into that wisdom through chanting is straightforward in method but boundless in potential. A child can chant. A scholar can chant. Both access the same fundamental practice, yet each will discover layers of meaning and transformation appropriate to their capacity and circumstances. Yet, this organizational structure has also created tensions and divisions. Different groups interpret Nichiren Daishonin's teachings in varying ways. Some emphasize strict adherence to traditional forms and priestly authority. Others stress lay empowerment and adaptation to contemporary circumstances. These differences reflect broader questions about authority, interpretation, and change that all religious traditions eventually face. The Lotus Sutra teaches, "The thus come one knows well how to make distinctions in expounding various doctrines." Different organizational expressions of the teaching may each serve valid purposes for different people at different times. What unites these various expressions is conviction in the transformative power of the Lotus Sutra and dedication to its propagation. Nichiren Daishonin wrote, "Both oneself and others together will take joy in their possession of wisdom and compassion." The vision isn't of isolated individuals achieving personal peace, but of communities of practitioners supporting each other and working collectively to transform society. This communal dimension distinguishes this tradition from more individualistic Buddhist paths, though community exists in all Buddhist traditions to varying degrees. The teaching of the oneness of mentor and disciple provides another distinctive element. While all Buddhist traditions honor lineages and teachers, this tradition emphasizes the living connection between teacher and student as essential to enlightenment. Nichiren Daishonin wrote extensively to his followers, offering guidance on everything from serious illness to family disputes. These letters reveal a teacher deeply engaged with disciples' lives, not distant or merely focused on abstract doctrine. The Lotus Sutra presents the relationship between the Buddha and his disciples as one of profound intimacy and shared purpose. Chapter 16 reveals that Shakyamuni Buddha actually attained enlightenment in the inconceivably distant past and has been teaching beings ever since, appearing in various forms throughout time. This eternal Buddha isn't separate from practitioners, but intimately connected to them, guiding them toward their own enlightenment. Understanding these differences helps clarify what makes this tradition distinctive without diminishing other Buddhist paths. Each tradition developed in response to particular circumstances and addresses particular needs. The gradual path of traditional Buddhism served societies where most practitioners were monastics, with time for extensive practice. The sudden enlightenment approach of Zen suited the temperament of certain cultures and individuals. The elaborate methods of Tibetan Buddhism preserved and transmitted sophisticated teachings across generations. Each has value and has helped countless people. This particular path emerged in response to the belief that earlier teachings, while valuable, were preparatory, and that Shakyamuni Buddha's ultimate teaching was preserved in the Lotus Sutra. Nichiren Daishonin wrote, "Now, in the latter day of the law, who is carrying out the practice of Shakubuku in strict accordance with the Lotus Sutra? Suppose someone, no matter who, should unrelentingly proclaim that the Lotus Sutra alone can lead people to Buddhahood. This conviction drives the tradition's distinctive characteristics, its emphasis on the Lotus Sutra, its assertion that enlightenment is possible now, its engagement with social issues, and its accessible practice. The ultimate goal remains the same across all Buddhist traditions, awakening to the true nature of reality and freeing oneself and others from suffering. The Lotus Sutra teaches, the Buddha appears in the world for one great reason alone, to enable all living beings to attain the Buddha wisdom. Different traditions offer different means toward this end, each with its own genius and its own limitations. This tradition offers the genius of simplicity, accessibility, and social engagement. Its limitation, perhaps, lies in the very strength of its conviction, which can sometimes lead to conflicts with other Buddhist schools or to rigid orthodoxy within its own community. Yet, at its best, this path embodies the Lotus Sutra's promise that enlightenment belongs to everyone, not just a spiritual elite. When a single mother chants before heading to work, when a teenager chants before a difficult exam, when an elderly person chants despite pain and loneliness, they each participate fully in Buddhist practice. They don't need extensive education, special abilities, or perfect circumstances. They need only the willingness to chant with sincerity and conviction, trusting in the mystic law and in their own Buddha nature. This democratic vision of enlightenment, combined with emphasis on social transformation and this lifetime achievement, makes this form of Buddhism distinctly relevant to contemporary life while remaining faithful to ancient teachings about the universal potential for awakening.